Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim. Today we're going to be interviewing Allie. How are you doing today, Allie?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We were speaking before. We're both a little excited to do this, it sounds like. So let's get
hmm
started and dive in. Tell me about your childhood and growing up.
I was born in Nassau County in Long Island, New York.
Oh, okay. I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, that's
Not
nice. I'm from
far.
Westbury.
Okay. Where's Westbury? This is Long Island?
It's in Nassau County. As I said, it's like I guess the northern part of the island. Like we
Okay.
also had a house in Mount Sinai too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so
Yeah.
not far from each other.
No.
So how was it growing up? Did you have both your parents?
I have both my parents. We had money. Um, we lived in my grand when my grandparents got sick, we moved into their house, which was like a four-story house, like full attic, full covered
Yeah.
basement, pantry. I went to private school, and then my grandmother got sick. My dad lost his like really sick, like she had a stroke, and my dad lost his job, and then everything started to fall apart from there. We lost all our money.
Oh, you muted yourself. Alicia, Allie, I mean, you muted yourself. There you go. Sounds like you're back.
Yeah. Did I cut out?
Yeah, no, you muted yourself. It's okay. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, after we lost everything and we moved to Knoxville, that was like a huge culture shock because, things are a lot different here
Yeah,
socially and style wise and stuff like that. So I was really lonely when I first moved here. And of course, going from having all your material needs met to having to struggle, like was which was something my parents really never got used to. I grew up with a mother who had mental illness. Like I spent a lot of time alone as a child. I had two brothers that I dedicated myself to taking care of from the age of 4 on. And like I was just always, always felt alone. So I always wanted to be liked. That was like a huge thing for me. It's like I really wanted people to like me. So I did anything I could to make myself of service. You know, I
yeah,
felt like I was like a tool, you know, here I am for you to use me. And, that you, and really it's something my sponsor helped me with is like, you weren't trying to be of service to them. You were trying to make yourself useful so they wouldn't leave you. You were trying to make yourself useful for you so that I could find confidence. Because I thought by doing these things and making myself available to these people who really like, a lot of them really didn't care about me, I would be useful so that they would never leave me. Because, even though I had this family and everything like that, there was very little time I felt very much like an outsider. And then when I was like 19, um, was when I had my first brush with drug use. And I started with marijuana. Um, I mean, I drank before then,
How
but
was
nothing.
your first time? You say you started with marijuana. Who was the
Yeah.
first person you ever smoked with?
It was my best friend, God rest her soul. Um, it was my 19th birthday. She took me to Waffle House. She got a Boston cream pie, like one of those slices of Boston cream pie that they
Yeah,
have
yeah.
with the like, and she tried to fit 19 candles in it. Like I'm serious. Like she tried her best, and then I told her she was like, "So, well, like, what do you do to have fun?" And I was like, I don't know, like I hang out with people, like we go playing hide and go seek in the cemetery sometimes, and you know, find all sorts of weird places to explore. And she was all like, but like, what do you do to have fun? I've drank a few beers before. And she's like, have you ever smoked weed? And I was like, no, I've never smoked weed. And she broke her neck to find me a blunt. Like, took me this guy from El Salvador's house and and like just smoked me out. Like, she was like, "It's your birthday, you should party." And after that, it was just like, weed, alcohol
Did
was a
you like
huge.
it?
Like, I did. Like, I was sitting there, like, I was like blazed out watching my hand move. Okay, dude. Like, I was so freaking stoned. I had the best sleep of my life that night.
What
Like,
did you, so that's what you liked about it. Did you get like euphoric?
I did get euphoric. Yeah, I got like super, super happy. I was hugging everybody by the end of the night. Just happy to be alive. Um,
I
but really,
remember my
that's not.
first I remember my first time I drank a ton of water. I had such cotton mouth. That's one thing I remember. It was
Yeah,
terrible cotton mouth. And I had never smoked before, so I didn't know about it. So I was
yeah.
drinking like out of the pitcher. I remember we were at IHOP and I was just chugging water down.
You just feel your mouth smack together
Yeah,
doing that
exactly.
thing. Like, marijuana has been like an in and out factor in my career of addiction, I guess you could say. But really, what really brought my self destructive tendency out was alcohol. Because like when I was 17, I got into a car accident and it broke my back. And before that, I had planned to dance because I'd been dancing ever since I was 7 years old, and I wanted to continue dancing. And that was not possible after that car accident. But my friend had a band, and I can't sing, I can't play an instrument, but I could put a drum kit together in like under a minute. So he's like, "I need roadies," and the crew gets free drinks. So I was like, "I'm there." So we went all over, like, all over East Tennessee, and put on, they put on shows and stuff like that. And that's really when I like launched into drinking. And then my son's father, that's when I met him. And, you know, he ended up like, I ended up having a miscarriage with him.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. Like, it's happened. Um, and he cheated on me in response.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so then, like, I got with, like, me and my friend Grant, who is like just one of the best, most eccentric people in the world, just like took me for a summer out, to Maryville where he lived. And, a lot of people put down like I'm married a juggalo, okay? The ICP community. A lot of people put those people down, call them white trash. I
What's
have never been.
ICP?
I see insane clown posse.
Oh, it's like okay.
Yeah. Like and they were, I've never been safer than I was with those people.
Insane Clown Posse, isn't that a band that has like 20 people in it?
Like, it's no, it's Jay and Shaggy, but Psychopathic has like 20 people in it. Like, it's Dark Lotus, that was with Twisted and Boondocks and a couple other people. Like, I'm not like, my husband's like a ride or die fan. I like the music, but like, I was there at those parties to drink, and they were there, and the people that were there kept me safe, kept me from
That's
making
good.
like really bad mistakes. In fact, one night we decided, we had a friend of mine's were in a rap group, and we were promoting them. So we had a bunch of people from different bands, different, rap groups in East Tennessee, and basically the eastern part of this, the eastern part of the just the eastern part of the South, right? Like, we had like people from Atlanta and Georgia, areas, and Virginia come down, and we did like a something we called the Jester's Ball. And my son's father, who, well, at this point he wasn't my son's father.
Hmm.
Um, this point he was just the guy who cheated on me. Brought the girl who cheated on me to the Jester's Ball and left her there. And so I ended up babysitting her like the whole night because she got way too drunk.
Oh no.
And so like that was a pretty interesting night. But then like, me and Grant, because we'd hang out all summer, tried dating and it didn't work out. And my son's father uh found out that I'd been dating someone else and decided he was unhappy with the girl he cheated on me with. And we got back together, and all my friends were like, "This is a bad idea. This is a terrible idea. Don't do this." And it led me to my now, if two or more people see it rule. Like, if more than two people tell you that it's a bad idea, it's probably a bad idea. Like,
That's a
don't do
great
it.
rule. That's a great
Yeah.
rule.
Like, if you go to like three friends and the third one's like, "Yeah, go for it," then listen to the other two. But we got together, and I got pregnant, and he started drinking much more heavily because he was drinking for two. Um, and just a lot of destructive behavior. Almost ended up homeless and pregnant. And finally, we got a place, and he just changed.
How
You
so?
know, like he got angry, he got violent, he got mean. Um,
Was there a reason for that?
I mean, he said that I got pregnant on purpose, that this was just an angle to trap him. And, I also, like, I had postpartum depression, and he didn't know how to deal with that. He started cheating again, and I started getting upset about the fact that he was cheating and calling him out on it. He didn't like that either. And so when my son was about 6 months old, um, like, we parted ways in a very violent fashion. And
What do you mean by very violent fashion?
we had like a knockdown drag out fight, and then I left.
Did you get hurt?
I was covered in bruises, and my dad saw it, and got very angry, as any father would. Um, Later on, and then like a week after I left him and I had my son, I moved in with my parents for a little while, and then my dad was like, "Look, go. We just can't handle like a baby in the house, so you're gonna have to find someplace else to go." And I was like, "Okay." So I moved in with a friend of mine, and I lived under her stairs on a love seat with my son's crib right beside me until I could afford, at least half the rent and a roommate. So I moved out, and it was just me and my son for like a long time, and I continued to drink. And I didn't really get into hard drugs until Lisa popped back up in my life and introduced me to Roxy's.
Who's Lisa?
That was my best friend, the one who got
Oh,
me smoking weed.
gotcha.
She like, and after Roxy's turned to morphine, morphine turned to more pain pills, and my husband, or he was my best friend at the time, like he was just like, you know, you're going, she's not really being your friend right now, because she ended up ripping me off for like $700.
Wow.
Yeah, like I had a joint account with my parents, and she got a hold of my debit card, and I didn't know this, and like my husband told me about what was going on, and I realized she wasn't, really the best. Like, the best way to describe her is that she could be a good person. And I loved her very much, but when addiction got a hold of her, she could not be a good person. She just had no control over herself whenever she was sick or she needed something to
Doesn't it
get her.
suck how much people change sometimes when they're
Yeah,
using?
like she would be the person that I could call like in the middle of the night and just bitch about whatever. And we would spend hours just like hanging out in her room watching like old TV and talking about everything. And then if she was sick or if she was just itching for a buzz, she was a snake. She ended up trying to get clean after like I stopped hanging out with her after like my husband woke me up to what was going on with her and found out like she tried to call me one night to pay on her electric bill. And I called him and I was like, it just seems a little sketchy because she keeps changing her story. He's like, yeah, her electric bill is paid. She has LIHEAP. LIHEAP is a local thing we have around here to help you with your electric bill. They pay your electric bill for like 3 months and get you caught up. And he's like, she doesn't need that $60 for electric bill. You got to cut her off money wise. And I did. And for a minute there, I thought it woke her up because like she started going to online school. She said she'd stopped doing drugs and she started doing really well. And then one day I'm at work and my husband comes by and he was actually going to a funeral that day for another friend of ours. Um and who was murdered. And you know, I gave him a hug and everything like that. And I said I couldn't get a hold of Lisa. And he's like, well, I'll try calling her too. And, you just let me know. And then I started seeing all these things online about her, being dead. And I was like, guys, that's not funny. It's April 1st. That's a horrible joke. And finally, a friend of mine that I really trusted, that had never lied to me, and I knew not to be like a practical joker, called me and she was like, yeah, it's true. She is dead. They found her overdosed with a needle in her arm. She's 29.
So young.
Yeah, didn't make it to 30. And, I think after that, like, it's not like I stopped doing pills or anything like that, because actually that was like my husband's family business. Like
They all sell
almost
pills.
selling pills, whatever, like basically whatever they could get their hands on at the time, like con artists, thieves, drug dealers. Not everybody in his family is like that. In fact, like there's a lot of people in his family that are upstanding people, but the ones that I was close to at the time, um, like pills led to heroin, heroin led to meth, started doing cocaine and crack. And
How old was the first time you did like a really hard drug like heroin or when was the first time you used
heroin,
a needle?
I never used a needle.
Oh, okay, you snorted.
I snorted everything went up my nose. Like everybody, when they hear that I was a heroin user, they're all like, "Oh my God, I thought you hated needles." And I was like, "I do hate needles, but my nose, I don't mind destroying that."
Yeah.
And like it got really bad because, and I thought that I was functioning. I lied to myself and told myself I was functioning because, by the time heroin became involved, like me and my husband had our daughter, and my son was like 7 years old. And, the kids never missed a doctor's appointment, never missed school. My house was always clean. And I thought that was enough, to say to myself, like, oh, well, I'm doing fine. I keep a job. My kids are doing well. I just have this little habit, you know? And then finally, someone wised up to what was going on in our house. Well, actually, it wasn't so much that. It was a friend of ours got mad at us, and his girlfriend called CPS on us, and our kids were taken away. And we both went to rehab. But when I came back from rehab, like we kind of went like a week apart, so we weren't there at the same time. And when I got back from rehab, we had this friend of ours house sitting for us because when we moved into the apartment building that we were living in, our neighbor was not the most sane person. and kept saying that we were plotting to kill him, but he was going to get us first. And even though I'd gone to management about him and everything like that, they believed him over us. I don't know why. I suspect because he'd been there longer. But I had this friend watching my house. Well, like she asked if she could stay the night, one more night when I get back, and I'm like, that's okay. I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. So I go to sleep, and the next morning I get woken up to the cops at my door. And I'm like, okay, like, what's going on, officer? How can I be of service to you? Like, what's going on? And they tell me that the woman who'd been house sitting for me has a warrant, and they have to come into my house right then and get her. And so I complied, everything like that. I let her know it. They found 100 pounds of meth in the room she was staying in.
Did you know it was there?
I didn't know it was there. Like, I had no idea. Like, I knew she dabbled in selling every now and then, but I thought her to be a trustworthy. She was recommended by a friend of a friend. But, you know, told her she was a trustworthy person and everything like that. And then, like the police came, and like I called my management office. I told them, I was like, the police have been here. Someone was watching my house while I was in rehab. I'm just trying to get better. Like, I will take a drug test. I've not done anything. And at first, everything was fine. They were like, thank you for reporting this. And, we believe you. But then a week later, I got an eviction notice. And then we went to court, and they told us that it would be a while before we could see our kids unsupervised. And then I was in an IOP program, and my counselor accused me of still using, even though I passed drug test and everything, and he accused me of still using and transportation stopped picking me up, so I couldn't even fight it. I tried fighting my eviction, that didn't work out. And before I knew it, I just gave up. I just hit bottom, and I went right back out and started using again. My house very quickly became a trap house. I had people living in my house that I didn't know who they were or where they came from or how they even got in my house. Some mornings I wake up and like half my shit would be missing. And some mornings I would wake up and not know who was in my driveway or like why my front door was open or all the cabinets in my kitchen were open and who was passed out on my table. Like and it kept going on and on and on like that. And finally, my husband and I turned to each other one night and was like, we can't live like this anymore. And we knew we were getting evicted soon anyway, and that we would have to get out soon. So we packed some stuff and we took off from the apartment and went and lived with his mom, which we thought would be better. We thought it'd be a fresh start, but it wasn't. Everything was fine for a minute. We started white knuckling it again. I got a good job. And, he started going back to the doctor because my husband is a type 2 diabetic. He's insulin dependent. And, everything started to improve a little bit, And then my mother-in-law got hooked on crack again. And suddenly, my money became her money. And everything was to keep the peace. She would get fronts from drug dealers, and then she would tell them that I was the one she was getting fronts for, and I was getting hit in the parking lot by people I didn't even know. And so eventually, again, I said, fuck it. Finally I'd gotten off unsupervised visits. I was having my kids for the weekend. But every time my kids would come over for the weekend, if I didn't make her happy, then she would make our weekend with our kids hell. So it was just I just said, fuck it. I shouldn't have said fuck it, but I did. Until finally, we ran from that place too. We ended up at the homeless shelter, and I got my shoes stolen. I got a lot of other stuff. Gesundheit, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But then we were at the homeless shelter, and we were still partying and stuff like that. We had a hotel room one night, and we partied all night. And then, in the middle of the night, Steven woke up and like his foot was green
If it was
and
what?
green.
Oh my God.
The infection in his foot had gotten way too bad. So we were like, okay, we're gonna go to the hospital. And took $30 that we could have used for food at the hospital, and we bought our last sack of heroin. And we're like, okay, we'll just do it in the bathroom. Okay, like I'll go in the bathroom and do mine, you go in the bathroom and do yours. And so I went in there to do mine, and I died. Like my husband was up there at the bus station. He's like, okay, she'll just come back upstairs and meet me, right? And he waited there for the bus, and he waited until the bus left, and then he came downstairs and didn't see me coming out of the bathroom or anything. Waited there by the bathroom for a little bit, and then realized something was wrong. So he snuck into the bathroom and he found me dead on the toilet seat in the bus station. And he pulled me down from toilet seat, pulled my pants back up. He started doing chest compressions, started doing a sternum rub, trying to get my heart started. My breathing had stopped. My heart had stopped. I was unresponsive. So we figured it was like I was gone for at least 10 minutes, if not more.
Could I ask what happened? Because I always wanted to ask somebody firsthand that firsthand experience. Like, because somebody once said, and I get this, is a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
see a light, but they believe that's your brain trying to use all its available resources to just, I don't know, not die. And then that's what happens.
Well, I found myself, if I found what desperation really feels like the true meaning of cold and desperation. I found myself in a dark place, held down with no speech. I knew there were other people there, but I knew that they had long given up. I was in darkness and cold, and I just thought to myself, like, if I get out of this, or if I can just live again, I will not take for granted another day. And that's when, like, I saw the light of day come, and I shot up in the ambulance. And I don't know if like the ambulance workers were doing something or if it was God. I feel like it was God, because I don't think hell is fire and brimstone. I think hell is true darkness and desperation. And that's where I was. It was just completely just gone from this world. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothingness and cold and no anger or anything, but pure guilt and self-loathing and most sad you've ever felt, because there was nothing. There's absolute nothing. So I woke up, and even though like hospitals treat addicts coming back from an overdose like complete shit, by the way, like I had thrown up in this bucket to the point where it was almost overflowing, and they wouldn't take it away from me. They kept me in the hallway all night, and I had to, like, when I finally could eat, I had to like beg for food. But finally, like the navigators, uh, actually, what I plan on going into when I get my peer certification, uh, came and found me, and they brought my boss, and they were like, "You have to tell him what happened." And I was like, because they were like, "We can tell him, but if you tell him face to face what happened, we can try and get you help." So, because I work at a hospital in the dietary department, and how like just terrible is it to one overdose and die, and see exactly where you're going, exactly where your misdeeds have led you, and then wake up grateful to be alive, but also like just knowing this is where everything has led you. But at the same time, like, as uncomfortable and disgusted I was by myself in that moment, because I was in dirty clothes. Like that morning, like I had gotten my period, which had stopped while I was dead. But then, like, when everything like just restarted like 10 times worse. I was thrown up all night, and my boss came and saw me. I had puke all over me. I was bleeding everywhere. I was just disgusting. And he's like, "What happened?" And I was like, I went back out and I OD'd, and I need help, and I don't want to lose my job. And he was like, "Look, if you get help, I will protect your job. Your job will be here when you get back. We'll just put you on like FMLA." And I was like, "Thank you. I'll do whatever they tell me to do."
What is
What?
FMLA?
Like, it's like medical leave.
Okay.
Like, it's not paid or anything, but it ensures that your spot will not be taken.
Okay, cool. That's great.
Yeah. So I went to rehab and I kept my promise. Like, I did whatever they suggested to do. Like, they want if they wanted me to like stand on my head and say the national anthem, I would stand on my head and say the national anthem. I committed. And I think it was because this time it wasn't to get my kids back, it wasn't to get a place, it wasn't for anything except for the fact that I was tired of being miserable, and I didn't want to die. I was tired of going out at 2 in the morning to walk like 4 miles to a drug dealer's house. I was tired of getting beat up. I was tired of meeting into dangerous situations. I was tired of being under people's thumb. And so it was time to surrender. And like, whenever you start to do the right thing, that's when they say the devil starts fucking with you, like that. And the day I got to rehab, my husband did make it to the hospital, but he had to he was in orthopedic department. They told him that his leg could not be saved and they had to amputate it. So I found out the day I got to rehab that they were amputating his leg, and I wanted to be there for him. But luckily, I have a really good partner, and he was like, "No, you need to do this. You need to be there." And luckily, like, it took him 6 months, but he finally followed me into recovery. And when the people at rehab told me to go to a halfway house, I went to a halfway house. And that was really scary. I'm very much a tomboy. I don't get along with other women. Early on in my life, like, I had a very strained relationship with my mother until like I became an adult. And so then next thing I know, like, I'm around all these other women. And after a few months in recovery, they're coming to me for advice. And all this time I had thought like all these people who had more recovery than I had, like, just knew it all. But then when I realized like people were coming to me and I didn't know shit, I just knew what worked for me. Like, then it was like, "Oh, okay, well, I did this. This might help. This is what other people have told me to do."
Well, that's all we can do is share our experiences.
Yeah. I didn't realize that that was all it was, that life became a lot simpler. I I got my kids' trust back. I got my kids back. I went from the halfway house to an Oxford house, and now I'm living in my own house with my husband and my kids. I was able to help my parents. They lost their place, and so I was able to get them into my place.
That's great.
So, I mean, honestly, I think this whole story is just about, wanting to live. And you can't live for anybody else. You just got to live for yourself.
I couldn't say anything more true than that.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing I used to be that way, like where I was I thought I was living for other people. Like I gotta take care of this person, I gotta take care of that person. And at the end of
Hmm.
the day, I was a mess.
Yeah,
The person that needed taken care of was me.
exactly. Like you can't pour from an empty cup and all those other nice cliches we like to say in the rooms,
Yeah.
you know, like, but it's true. Like, honestly, like when we first moved in here, I had not been to a meeting in like 2 weeks. And I started to get like, I tell my sponsors, like getting itchy. Like, I started just like snapping at people and stuff like that. And so I finally reached out to a friend and I was like, I need to get to a meeting, get me to a meeting as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And she did. And honestly, finding this community, like never feeling like you fit in anywhere, and then like finding the fellowship of NA has been the most amazing part of my recovery. Like, I have literally found a family within my own, like, I have found a family, an extended family that I never thought I had. Because I can't even say like outside my family, because they are my family. Like, my husband's sponsor, my kids call him uncle. And, my sponsor, like, my kids love her. Um, all the people that we've met in recovery have become uncles, honorary uncles or aunts. And like, we go to conventions, we go to campouts, we have parties. Like, my homegirl's actually setting something up for April 1st, and I'm getting people to do like charity haircuts and stuff like that, and like offering, just kind of like quirky stuff outside the norm just to get more people to come out to our group.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's honestly, I don't know why I kept myself from being happy for so long. Like, it's almost like I didn't think I deserved it. Like I can't be happy unless I make this person happy. Or I can't be happy unless everybody else is happy.
It's
Or I
kind of
can't
like
be
a
happy.
codependency issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually like probably, I know like I should probably be doing self like promotion or anything like that, but Reinventing Your Life was a very good book that I found in rehab, and taught me about the schema of codependency and how I have a lot of codependency. It was really hard, especially when my husband was still using and I had found recovery, to cut him off monetarily, because I loved him and I wanted him to do well. Luckily, I got some good advice saying, you think you're helping him into the grave. Yeah, you got to stop sending him money. Tell him I will buy you food, I will buy you clothes, but I will not give you any more money. And luckily, that's what led him to get into detox. Um, Although he has the worst luck ever, I'm gonna say, because once he got to detox, he found out he had COVID.
Oh,
Yeah.
no good.
And so, like, and between detox and going to rehab, he had to like go and stay somewhere else in quarantine for a week before he could go to rehab.
Where did he quarantine?
He quarantined in like our church, luckily helped out with a hotel,
Okay, that's
and
cool.
people were constantly like bringing him food and stuff like that, checking on him. So he was okay. And then like he got into like the sister rehab that I was at, which, after talking to a couple of my friends who work in recovery, like, he tried to be all like, well, like, we were the ghetto of your rehab, blah blah blah, y'all bougie. And like, one of my friends who also works in recovery is like, no, no, they are just as bougie as yours. He has no dog in that fight.
Yeah. So how long you been sober now?
I will have 2 years in March.
Oh, me too. I have March. March for me will be 3 years.
What's your date? Mine's March 11th.
Oh, mine's the 10th.
Nice.
Yeah, March 10th, 2020.
Oh, that's so cool. And
Yeah.
getting clean in fucking COVID season, that must have been hard.
Yes, because I was all by myself. So my story, real quick, was I was in a rehab for the first time ever. I was there
Mm-hmm.
about 7 or 8 days when COVID broke out, and I said, I don't know what a quarantine is like, and I don't want to be stuck here for months. So
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm going to get stuck anywhere, I'm going home out. And the day I left, the next day they announced the quarantine.
Oh my
So,
God.
so there were no meetings, there were no friends, there was no family. It was me by
Mhm.
myself. I came home to a bottle of 90 Klonopin.
Oh God.
They were prescribed to me. I used to get 3 months worth in one shot,
Yeah.
and I ended up flushing it down the toilet.
Well, good for you.
Yeah,
That
I
must be super hard.
it was because I said to myself, I could pull this off because I'm bipolar. I could probably still take them and not be an addict. But then I was like,
Yeah.
you just detoxed from it. I was like, well, why?
Yeah.
I was like, why the hell would you go back? So I've never really thought about using drugs that much.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, for me, like what happened with me is that like my drinking led me to getting raped.
Oh, I'm sorry to
And
hear that.
when I got raped, I ended up getting pregnant. And instead of getting, terminating the pregnancy, I decided to find someone to adopt the baby. And I found my obstetrician, who is just an amazing man, helped me find an adoption lawyer and introduced me to this wonderful woman, um, who honestly is just one of my heroes. And I let her adopt the child. But after that, alcohol just brought up bad feelings, but I still didn't like myself. So, I had to find other ways to escape,
Yeah.
just not alcohol. But
So
there's always something.
you've got quite the story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're sober now because that's all that matters, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm so much happier now. Like I have amazing friends. I've buffed up my comic book collection very well. Um, Me and my husband finally have a room together again, which is great. Like I married my best friend.
That's what it's
I,
supposed to be. That's great.
yeah, like honestly, I could not imagine spending the rest of my life with anybody else. We were best friends before we got together, and he's helped raise my son. He's a great father to our daughter. And with his story, like, is pretty amazing too. He is now like a big part of an app developing company. Went from living on the street to becoming the right hand of the boss in an app developing company.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, that's great. There's really nothing I can say to that because it shows uh, what's the word? I don't want to say courage because it sounds corny, but it shows something that people like us, we can go,
Mhm.
like you said, from living on the streets to these high-end corporate jobs. Because it's not that we don't have the ability, it's that we're in a shitty situation.
And we don't know how to get out. Also,
Exactly.
change is scary for every addict. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that it's not that you like being miserable. It's just that you know what's going to happen. You can control it somehow. Like, you can sit there and you can be like, well, yeah, I'm miserable, but at least I know what tomorrow is going to be like.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't consciously say that, but you know that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I go out there and I try to find happiness, if it'll actually be out there. So why try? You know? And now, life is pretty simple. I find that if I just do simple things every day, that eventually life gets a little bit better.
So I have one last question for you before we get out of here. Let me ask
Okay.
you this. Do you have any tips or tricks for people that are watching and listening?
Okay. Here's some. Every morning, I make myself read the Just for Today, and I make myself take 10 minutes for myself. And I meditate, whether that's meditation or prayer or just listening. to your favorite song, I make sure to do one thing for my recovery every day. Like for some of my sponsees, I tell them like, especially those who are hurting with and having trouble loving themselves. Like one of my sponsees, I gave her this assignment recently. I told her, look in the mirror every day and apologize to yourself. Tell yourself, I'm sorry I hurt you. Because you know who you hurt the most in addiction? You hurt yourself. It was something that I had to do at the beginning of my addiction is I would look at myself in the mirror and I would tell myself, I'm so sorry I hurt you. I am so sorry I did this to you. And I will never stop trying to make this up to you. And I would tell myself I love myself. And doing that every day, making sure I had, like, I may be busy all day long, but if I take 10 minutes for myself every day, I find that I get through the day a lot better. Just simple things.
That's great. I mean, that's good advice. One thing at a time.
Yeah, just one thing at a time. Like, but make sure to just take at least 5 minutes for yourself to take a breath. Like I tell some people, like, luckily I work in a hospital and we have a lot of elevators, so every now and then I scream to one. Especially if the day gets like really hectic. Like we had over 600 patients last week,
Oh
and
wow.
we're short staff that we had to feed. So it gets a little hectic. So every now and then, take 5 minutes to scream in an elevator helps.
All right. Did you have anything else you want to add in?
I can't really think of anything, but I just want to say, like, if you have the chance to save yourself, don't worry about anybody else. Everything else will take care of itself. The world has a way of moving on, okay? And everything in its time. But if you have a chance to save yourself, take it. Don't worry about anything else, just save yourself. You can't take that life raft and take anybody with you. It's about carrying the message, not carrying the addict.
Yes. All right. So thank you so much for doing the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. How do you feel right now?
I feel pretty good. I'm looking at the time. Like I have an hour till I pick up my daughter from school, so I'm gonna unpack some more boxes. It's taken me over a month to unpack most of the boxes. I didn't
Yeah,
realize I
I
had.
know. I know the feeling with moving. I moved recently. I hate moving.
Yeah, like the biggest thing is like realizing you pack stuff that you don't really need, but at the time seems so important.
Yeah. All right. So do me a favor and sit tight. Gonna do our little sales pitch for the group. And for everyone watching, listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like, please. Also, subscribe to see when we upload new videos. We do that weekly. You can also check us out on all social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, we're on it. Also, check out our website. It's got a lot of free resources and literature, and you can find it at www.addicts-anonymous.com. Like I said, there's plenty of free stuff there for you to check out. And the last thing is hopefully by the mid to end of next month, we should have a book out. It's Addicts Anonymous, Our Stories. It's a collection of essays that I've written, as well as a lot of people's firsthand stories and experiences with their addiction. So that's all we have for today. I really hope you enjoyed the podcast. And until next time.